Welcome back. In this video, I would like to talk with you about learning strategies for visual learners. Now, all of the next videos are going to be quite simple. So what I'm going to give you are very simple strategies for visual learners. Now, they're not extremely important, let's say, in order for you to connect both halves of your brain, which is the goal here of this course. But it will definitely help you to just simply improve if you are already a visual learner, if you are an auditory learner, or if you like kinesthetic learning and or writing or reading. So basically what we're going to do right now is I'm going to give you 4 different videos, and in these videos I'll present you some very simple strategies in order to improve your existing learning process. So the next videos are all going to be about study skills. If you want to skip them, you can do that at any given time. Later on, we are going to focus again on these different methods because then we are going to connect them. But for now, I'm going to cover with you learning strategies for visual learners. So let's get into it. And I'm sorry if this perhaps looks a little bit boring, but I think it will be extremely helpful for you. So the first strategy that I would like to talk with you about is taking pictures or using videos, posters, slides, and screenshots and using them for your studies, because they are all beneficial to you. If you are a visual learner and if your test told you, all right, you are a visual learner, then please pay close attention. Because you and I, we are similar. We are both visual learners. And for me personally, it was very difficult to get the hang of it. And if you think right now, all right, for my entire life, I've only been working with text and it seems like I learned completely in a wrong way, then this will help you. So first of all, the first strategy, again, using pictures, videos, posters, slides, and screenshots, they are all beneficial to you. And I can give you also one hack right now. What I like to do is I like to take the information from the text and I put them, for instance, in an infographic. I put them on a poster, and for me, that was easier to remember. So for instance, I put pictures next to the text. I put it in a structure that was logical for me. For instance, I put it also on slides. I copied the slides. I learned from the slides. I looked at the slides. I played videos that I believed were helpful. For instance, when you study for a university exam or a high school exam or any other kind of exam, there are a lot of YouTube videos that will explain to you this given, let's say, method or a theory or something like that. And watching these videos was one of the easiest ways for me to remember the content or to remember the knowledge that I was supposed to learn. So make sure that when you use this strategy one, that you use it extensively. You want to make sure that you figure out which kind of content is the most helpful for you, which kind of content is the most beneficial for you. Then strategy number 2 is to make flashcards of vocabulary and other important information. Now, when I moved to the People's Republic of China, when I moved to Beijing, I basically had hundreds and hundreds of vocabulary flashcards. And on one side, I had, for instance, the Chinese letter. So basically, the Chinese, letter. And then on the other side, I had basically the English translation of it. So for instance, what I did is every single day, I had 10 to 20 flashcards that I wanted to learn. I want to remember these, these Chinese letters. And I very soon realized that the more I had, the easier it became for me to remember them. So if you want to remember information, and if you want to have something that you can use on the go, for instance, in the bus or in your car, or when you use public transport or something like that, then you should definitely stick with flashcards. Flashcards are extremely helpful. They're amazing tutorials online for creating flashcards if you want to have some kind of sophisticated system. But I think it is always just important to have packaged knowledge. So packaged knowledge that is in small packages, that is visible for you and that you can work with. So in order to support yourself, in order to make sure that you can have flashcards at any given time, my advice to you is use the software Anki. That is now strategy number 3. There is a software called Anki that you can use. It is very easy to use and it is only for creating flashcards. So basically what you do is you create flashcards online and they will be shown to you in different kind of time frames. For instance, if you, let's say, want to remember faces and names, then you put on one side of the flashcard the name of that person, on the other side you put a picture of that person. And let's say you tell the computer, you tell the software to every single week ask you about the names of these people. Then what the computer does is, of course, after 1 week, the computer will show you that it will show you all of these images. And if you know them, it will show them to you after a longer time than 1 week. If you don't know them, they will be shown to you again in, like, let's say 3 or 4 days or something like that. So this is an amazing tool for you to build long-term knowledge. So in my mind, Anki is an amazing tool to build not just long-term knowledge, but long-term memory. It helps to train your brain, and it definitely is an amazing tool to create online flashcards. So please just check out Anki. It is completely for free. It doesn't cost anything. You can get it online for Mac and of course also for Windows. Then strategy number 4, color code notes with various highlighters, markers, and pens. So basically what I want you to do is I want you to figure out which kind of flashcards and with which kind of highlighters, which kind of markers, pens, which kind of colors work the best for you. Now, for instance, for me, I'm not just a visual learner, I also see things in colors. And for me personally, I always like to connect colors with things. So for instance, of course, the color green is for many people something connected with nature. So color red is, for instance, the color of something bad or something like that. So what you can do is you can, for instance, create a traffic light of flashcards. So for instance, the flashcards that you mark in red are the ones that you really need to learn. The ones that you mark in yellow are the ones that, well, you know a little bit, but you should, do them perhaps again. And the green ones, they are, you're pretty sure that you know all the knowledge that is on them. So basically all the information that are on them, you know about them. So color codes are extremely important in order to, first of all, make your flashcards more visible, but also, of course, to remember things more quickly, but also to remember them in the long term and to get a proper structure in your studying. So then strategy number 5. Always write out all information also when given in chart or diagrams form. Now, why exactly is that so important? Well, when you look, for instance, at charts or diagrams, this is only one information. But if you write down other information, if you connect that with a diagram, it becomes a much deeper knowledge. Now, often what happens is not necessarily that you get the diagram and then text you have to write, but rather is you have text and then you can create a chart or a diagram. So this works both ways around. If you are a person that is a visual learner, then of course, figure out which kind of charts, which kind of diagrams work best for you. If you are a person that is perhaps, focusing on writing/reading, you want to connect this kind of learning with the other kind of learning. So you want to connect the reading, writing learning with the visual learning. And you basically write, for instance, if you are a visual learner, for every diagram, you write text, and for every person that works very well with text, you create a diagram or a chart. This is how you can connect two types of learning. Then number 6, the strategy is use the strategy of word processing. Copy your notes into your computer. Now, word processing basically means that you process the words in the sense that you are able to read them. So for instance, if you write your notes, sometimes they are very difficult to read. And then what you do is you try to read all the notes and then you copy them into your computer. So you really focus on every single word. And that is, again, one of the strategies that many visual learners use in order to just learn things more quickly. So you'd use word processing. Look at the words that you have written down and then copy them to your computer in order for you to make sure that you remember things properly. Then number 7, place sticky notes wherever you go in your house. So if you want to remind yourself to learn, or if you want to remember certain words, for instance, it makes sense to, for instance, put sticky notes all over the room. So let's say you want to remember new words, you want to learn a new language. Let's say you want to learn German. Then you would, of course, put, for instance, on a mirror, you would put the German word for it. Or if you want to learn Chinese, what you're going to do on the bed, you're going to put there, for instance, the Chinese letters, 窗户, or something like that. So basically what you want to do is you want to make sure that every place that you believe could help you to learn, that this is covered with a sticky note. It doesn't necessarily have to be a big one. It can be a very small one, but it will help you to remember words. It will help you to accelerate your learning, and also it will just be a fun experience. So then strategy number 8, write down all the information when you recall. So for instance, when you recall things, write them down, but at the same time, for instance, draw charts, draw diagrams. Don't just remember text, but rather remember images and know exactly what these images are telling you. So my advice to you is always, when you recall things, remember the things from, for instance, images, recall these images, and then describe what these images are saying in order to connect the right message to the image in your mind. So then number 9, create for every important information a unique drawing, a unique picture. So you want to make sure that you create something that reminds you of the text passage, for instance. When you, for instance, cannot remember long text passages, you can at least remember drawings. And for instance, if you connect certain informations to a drawing, then what you're gonna get very soon is just simply a universe full of drawings. And every drawing has a lot of information behind it. So you then recall drawings, and these drawings unfold, this information unfolds, and behind that is much more information. Then strategy number 10. Use the Palace method in order to remember things more easily. Now, what exactly is the Palace method? Well, it actually is an amazing strategy, an amazing method for remembering things, well, not necessarily in the long term, but in the short term. So the Palace method basically focuses on building a palace in your mind. So for instance, if people tell you, all right, remember we have 7 bananas, 5 apples, and let's say 4 oranges. Then what you're going to do is you're going to place, let's say, 7 bananas in the first room, 5 apples in the second room, and 4 oranges in the third room. And then what you do in your mind is you don't just remember how many oranges and so on you had, but you rather walk through the rooms. And you walk through the rooms and try to remember how many bananas were laying there, for instance, on the ground. How many apples were they laying on the ground? How many bananas, bananas, oranges, apples, whatever. How many were they laying, for instance, on the ground in each room? And through that, many visual learners can remember things much more quickly, but also, of course, they can keep them in their mind for a longer time. Now, there are specialists around the world who can remember thousands of items with this strategy, and also they can remember them for the long term. So my advice to you is use this method called the Palace method. It's extremely helpful, and to be honest, it's also a little bit fun. Because in your mind, you're playing around, you're building a building, and it's more, let's say, applied than just simply looking at text, trying to remember facts. So right, that was it now here for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see each other in the next one.